let's talk about some teams that at least I care about, because the MLB draft is happening the 17th, which is coming up here pretty quick. So we're going to kind of talk about potential mock drafts, and definitely we'll at least break down the order. And, for a lot of baseball fans, from teams that are, pretty good teams, like the Yankees and stuff like that, the Giants, the Rays, Astros, they're all getting, 28, 29, 30th pick. Let's be honest, in any draft, in my opinion, whether, it's the NBA draft, MLB draft, NHL draft, and those first couple of picks are the real exciting ones. And then the ones later, they're just as important, but it's those first highly touted prospects and everything like that you get in there. So you're talking the Orioles get the number 1 pick, and there's been a lot of buzz. Who are they going to take? And Arizona's going to be number 2, the Rangers number 3, and my beloved Pittsburgh Pirates number 4, and the Nationals rounding out the top 5. So a bunch of pretty terrible teams. But the Orioles, they've been playing a little bit better. I think that they're playing in the way that they're developing some of their players. You're starting to see them. Even Logan said that they have more wins than Cleveland, and they've been a little bit more impressive, and they've been in a lot more games. They're winning games.
Yep, the Orioles are not garbage by any means right now.
Yeah, so it is kind of cool to see. I guess as an Oriole fan, when a plan comes together. But there's been a lot of talk because, the last couple of picks, probably their best draft pick in recent histories is Rutschman. Yep. Catcher. He's just a great prospect. He's had a good MLB start to his career. But the Orioles draft day, we're going to give you a little bit of information. First pick, and obviously the bonus slot. So they're the number 1 pick with an $8.8 million bonus slot. And they also have the 33rd, 42nd, and 67. I really do like how the Major League Baseball, they do what is called like a competitive pick. So at the end of the first round, the teams that stink, let's call it what it is, the Pirates, the Orioles, stuff like that, they get a competitive pick, or a competitive balance round pick. So you have the Orioles after the 31st and 32nd pick, which is the compensation picks from the Rockies and the Reds. It's going to go Orioles, Diamondbacks, Royals, Pirates, Guardians, Rockies, Padres. So I like that they do that, and it's just a good way, I guess, to have the 10 smaller market teams and the teams with the 10 smallest revenue kind of get an additional pick to, make them competitive. And I like how they do that. I think other sports should potentially look into that, because let's be honest, when you're watching the NBA, it seems like it's the same 4 teams in the Final Four, but what do I know? So either way, Orioles, they're going to do that. And they got some, I don't know. We talked about it before. I think it's an easy choice, but I know, at least historically with the regime that the Orioles have, they don't overly love drafting high school kids. But, I mean, Drew Jones, he's got to be number 1, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get too much into the draft myself, but, I mean, you got Drew Jones, who obviously the son of Andrew Jones, the once great center fielder.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? Like, if it's between him and somebody else and you're kind of toeing the line, I think you take the pedigree, because he's been around baseball forever. And so I think, maybe you just say, well, if you're weighing it, I'm going Drew Jones because his father has taught him the game. His dad was really good. Doesn't mean he's going to be like his father.
True.
But there's a good possibility he's like his father.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd take that any day.
Yeah, I mean, you have Andrew Jones, which was a All-Star and 10-time Gold Glove winner. Even if you can get an All-Star and a 7-time Gold Glove winner, you've done pretty well out of the first spot.
Right. You're doing all right.
But, I mean, obviously, it's hard to kind of justify high school, even though they're playing at a very high-level high school, kind of like the Savannah Bananas, some high school kids that are, having fun and doing the right thing, in my opinion, on social media. But, I mean, you look at some of the top prospects in this year's draft. You have Drew Jones. Then you have Jackson Holiday, all right, which is another high schooler who plays shortstop. You have Elijah Green, who is an outfielder that is in an academy. He's done some stuff with the USA team and stuff like that. And then you also have another high schooler in Tamar Johnson. And then you have the first kind of college player that kind of people are looking at is Brooks Lee, shortstop out of Cal Poly. Great little program out there. And then, you got an LSU third baseman, I believe, Jake Berry, another little stud. You have, and then Gavin Cross, I believe, was an outfielder for Virginia Tech that I remember hearing his name around. So again, the Baltimore recent campaign, they've only drafted 1 or 2 high schoolers. I think it's got to be Drew Jones.
I think so, unless they want to go pitching.
True, which there is not really
not a ton.
No, I mean, any of the kind of mock drafts that a lot of the experts have done, there hasn't really been a that kind of top 10 pitcher, and they're saying it's definitely not going to be a pitcher overall. And they said it's definitely probably going to be a high schooler, and it's going to be one of the most unpredictable first overall picks in recent history. So if you're into the draft like I am, make sure you tune in. Again, it's going to be July 17th, and should be pretty exciting for teams like mine and the Pirates that, don't have a lot to look forward to in the season. So the draft is where sometimes, you find some of your future, and it's pretty exciting. Pretty exciting stuff. And let's jump into some trade rumors. All right.
All
We
right.
were talking a little bit earlier. There hasn't really been, and the only trade rumor was that I've heard was the Yankees and the Royals were discussing the Andrew what is it?
Benintendi.
Why are these names so hard to say in baseball?
I blame him. I blame his parents.
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, you got to blame the grandparents of the grandparents of the grandparents for that name. But either way, that's kind of the only trade rumor that I've heard. They're in negotiations for that. Haven't heard further details, but I mean, there's a big name that we've talked about a couple episodes ago was Wilson Contreras, still out there, still on the team. Where the Cubs, I mean, we're approaching the All-Star break, and they're not really a contender, so it's just kind of who's he going to go to? What can they get back? I guess at this point.
Yep. I'm surprised we haven't seen a big trade or two so far.
Yep.
Typically you would see some end of June.
Yep.
Really haven't seen much. Benintendi is out there. Nelson Cruz.
Yep.
Per MLB trade rumors say the Mets have interest in Nelson Cruz, and so does anyone else who wants a really good hitter with some power.
Yep.
Oakland will no doubt be in it on some pitchers and get, it's Oakland. They're going to ship people off.
Absolutely.
But it's been eerily quiet.
Very. And the trade deadline is August 2nd for anybody that didn't know. So, I mean, we only have a couple more weeks really with the All-Star break and some stuff like that. But I mean, everybody's talking about Contreras.
Yep.
Where's he going to go? And it's just kind of a little odd for me, I guess, that we haven't really heard any of these, contending teams that are in negotiations. I'm sure there are, but usually there's insiders that kind of leak it, and it just doesn't make sense. And obviously the Andrew, really hard name to say, out of the Royals, which they're talking potential Yankees, which is a little surprising to me. But another big name that I recently heard was Josh Bell. All right, ex-Pirate, plays for the Nationals. I think they only have him locked into the end of the season, so it does make sense to try to get rid of him for something. And big first baseman, DH,
having a good year.
Good year, a lot of pop. I mean, he'd be an absolute great steal for somebody in contention. We talked about Luis Castillo, who's going to be an arm and probably a contender's bullpen at some point. There was a little bit of a talk about potentially the Padres, but I haven't heard much about that. But I think you mentioned the A's and Frankie Montes, which I thought that would be a great fit potentially for the Mets. But I do believe that I don't know if it was kind of, hey, we want to kind of showcase him, but they did shut him down his last start. Said he was pulled early. They shut him down for a start. I don't know. I'd have to imagine they're kind of doing this so there's one more appearance before the All-Star break, and they're going to go say, hey, man, give it your all. Let's get something for you and get yourself on a contender and go play for a ring.
Yeah, I think they're shutting him down just so he doesn't get hurt before they can trade him.
Yep. Another name, too, that I'm a little surprised by that I keep hearing, but not, is Jose Quintana from the Pirates. But also they're talking about Brian Reynolds and potential places where he could go, which, again, is a little surprising because they did pay him in a contract extension for a couple more years. But potentially maybe they say, hey, he's kind of at his peak. Maybe he's at his prime. Maybe he's not going to get any better. Let's try to get something for him. I mean, I guess I'd love to see him at some point, get something back for him, but let him go play for a contender. Maybe he's... hate to see it, but at
what point do they need to start holding on to players and start winning again?
I mean, the guy's like 27 years old. It's not like he's, in his 30s. Right. He's
right. Sign him.
And
sign
they
him
did
to a contract.
They did this year.
Keep him then. Keep him.
I don't understand it, but the A's as well. They got a lot of bullpen guys. When Jimenez comes back, I could see maybe Trevino going to somebody that needs it. I know he's got a high ERA, but he's got a high ceiling as well, in my opinion. But Joey Gallo, he's been rumored around. Maybe he gets shifted off in one of these trades. Brad Keller, I'd have to imagine, from the Royals. I think the Royals are going to be they have some pieces that could really help people.
Yep. Keller, Scott Barlow.
Yep.
From the Royals should be going somewhere.
Yep. Yeah.
Hopefully Toronto.
Ooh, there we go. David Bendnar. I don't know, the Pirates closer, who's just an absolute stud. They've talked about trying to hold on to him, but they have for whatever reason, they may not have a team that puts up a ton of runs, but they've been really good at developing bullpen late inning guys, and he's a stud. I mean, hopefully if they part ways with him as well, maybe they get something in return for it as well. But a lot of decent names, you're going to see, potential Pirates, A's, Royals, and one name that I really think is gonna move that I think would be a good fit for somebody is Bumgarner. All right, you haven't heard a lot of him. Arizona's okay. I still think he's got enough in the tank. He's got around a 3.5 ERA. on an Arizona team. You throw him into a contender.
Yeah, and if you get into the playoffs with Bumgarner on here,
Mhm.
even if he's your number 4, that dude is fiery.
Yep.
His track record speaks for itself in the playoffs. Yes, he's a little bit different pitcher than he was years and years ago, but still, I'll take that guy.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
But will you take his $23 million salary? I think.
Why
is the
not?
big-
It's not my money.
True. Fair enough. I like it.